Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Latino Role Models and Success. The idea is that there are role models in our community that are making changes for the better, ladies and gentlemen. They're showing us and showing young people that things can change, things can be done, that it's not always a matter of having huge organizations to do things, but sometimes it's the spirit of being able to know that every person has something inside of them that can be motivating to themselves and to others to change for the better. And one of those persons that I'm very proud to bring into today's show is Dr. Enrique Murillo, PhD. He is a professor and a leader at Cal State San Bernardino. It's a university there. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous at the base of the mountain. And what he brings is leadership. He brings into the idea that through education we can create leaders, and leaders are created through education. So it's a very win-win scenario, ladies and gentlemen. And he does an annual conference that is very special. And that is that he brings in some very top leaders around the nation, around the world, and he provides that information to all persons who want to listen globally over the Internet. So we applaud his work, his efforts. This is the fourth year that they do this, and from the perception that this is something that they just wanted to help the students down the street, came the idea from his behalf that we can do this for the benefit of all kids and all institutions around the world. So we bring in Dr. Enrique Murillo, and thank you very much, Mr. Murillo, for being here on the show with us.
Hey, the pleasure is all mine. I'm enjoying the day. Today is a day off of our normal work schedule. I'm talking to you, but at the same time, I'm listening here to the inauguration ceremony that's taking place in Washington, D.C., President Barack Obama's second term. It's also Martin Luther King Day, and of course that ties in everything with the Civil Rights Movement, which is walked right in line with the Latino Education and Advocacy Days, or what we just call LEAD, because education, and particularly Latino education, is the kind of focal point for a new civil rights movement that we're experiencing right now. It's by far the civil rights issue of our era, and there's many of us involved in issues around Latino education. I've been doing it for a long time, but because of the current era, all of a sudden, maybe the last 5 years, maybe 7 years, all of a sudden there's more of a focus on Latinos because, we've emerged as the largest minority in the United States, right? We're now 1 in 6 persons, and school children are by far the largest demographic group in many of our public schools, particularly here in California, the Southwest, places like Chicago, New York, Texas. But, we're 1 in 4 children now. And so it's a big deal because with all the problems are facing our country, the economy and the environment and the politics of immigration, Latinos add yet another quandary, and that's basically we're in the middle of educational crisis, and Latinos are the face, the poster child for educational crisis, because we bear the brunt. So it's where the most work has to take place. So I'm excited to be living in this era. It's a great time to be alive, to be involved in all these things taking place all at the same time.
Absolutely, and we are not a minority in the schools in California, being the most populated state in the nation. And as somebody else said in another show, the future of America is dependent on the tax base of the current number of people who are going to go into the workforce, that if there's not enough of them or well-educated, there's not enough money to support the people that are going to be retiring because it's an aging country. So the Latino community is expected to bring up the revenue and provide the support and administer the organizations into the future. So it brings a real challenge. It's just not hypothetical. It's also critical.
Oh yeah, I mean it's by far, the competitive strength of the U.S. In this global economy, right? It depends, and it's just going to depend all the more to the positive outcomes, educational outcomes of Latino students at all levels. Exactly in line with what you're saying, we are such a significant portion of this country that we represent the future strength of this country. And our lead organization, we want to fall in line with all those positive trends and be part of that positive change that needs to take place. Really what we want is, we know that for the United States to have this positive future, it's going to require a citizenry, but particularly a Latino citizenry that's, I believe, equipped to compete in a global economy. We want to be part of a literate and well-educated labor force and consumer base, right? The two go together. We're a natural pool of linguistic and cultural talent, which could only serve to strengthen ties with Latin America, particularly Mexico. Mexico is right there. And, we want to be a significant component of a highly productive workforce, a business force that not just contributes to the tax base, but just the general economic well-being and the health of the United States. And, of course, the last piece would be we are the most poised to participate and shape the political landscape through our voting and through our civic and service engagement. So all these things is the stage. That's our current stage. So the only way is up and stronger and better. And if Latinos win and we do our part, the whole of society, the whole of the United States wins. I always like to say, help us invest pesos now, and we're going to be able to cash out dollars later. So, so let's invest in the pesos now. We'll cash out the dollars later. You'll see.
And, a second item here, and we're going to talk about LEAD and your program, when it is available, when it's going to happen, who's invited, who should participate. A last item on my end in this area is that there was a mention also of the military in the inauguration, the importance of the military, American military being around the world. And if it's based a great deal on Latinos, like you mentioned, they better be educated, they better be literate. They do want to serve, but also in the modern warfare requires a great deal of education. So I applaud your efforts. Now tell us about LEAD. We want to make sure that we go into the details of the upcoming fourth LEAD, I understand, in March. And also we want to give our listeners a contact information about how they can learn more and participate with it no matter where they are in the world. So tell us about LEAD. How did it come about? This is the fourth year. What is the mission for it for this year?
It's the fourth year during our summit, but LEAD is an umbrella organization. I kind of think of it as a hammock, una hamaca. People say, okay, what's your metaphor? So, okay, what's a good metaphor that's kind of indigenous to our culture? And more than an umbrella, I think the hamaca, the hammock, is kind of our metaphor. That we're a trenza organization, right? Which is the other metaphor, trenzas, and it's all these things coming together under one banner called LEAD, which stands for Latino Education and Advocacy Days. And we're located at California State University, San Bernardino. So we're rightfully located within a university, within a higher education. And as you know, higher education institutions are criticized, and often for good reason, for our tendency to isolate ourselves, right, from our surrounding context, and for not being more engaged with the issues that affect the communities in which we're located. So maybe 15 years ago when we started the seeds of the LEAD organization, we, as a whole, those of us that were involved, we agreed that, these are important issues. This Latino educational crisis, it's such an important issue. It either directly or indirectly affects the institutions and our communities, and so they require us in higher education, faculty, staff, and students, to get out of the ivory tower, get out of your armchair, right, and do the work that is the most relevant for the context, the local context, and to employ the findings, a lot of the findings from our research. It's all fine and dandy, but how do we apply that to our local context? How do we foster discussions that change policy, for example? So the impetus has always been this model where one foot is in the academy and the other foot is in the community. I always think back to El Plan de Santa Barbara in the 1970s, and the idea in the 1970s was always, how are we going to create a bridge between the campus and the barrio, right? And so we can't expect everybody to come to us. We got to go out to the barrio. We got to work with the gente. We got to work where the people are at and not expect the people just to come to us. So there are many of us who were frustrated in higher education, who are doing all this fantastic work in our institutions. Many of you all are out there listening and are part of listening to the podcast right now, and I welcome anybody to chime in to tell us about their experiences. But most often, Latino scholars and the scholars that work on Latino issues, so you don't necessarily have to be Latino, but there's all of us who are working on these issues, we were working in isolation. Everybody was doing great work, but there was no network. So the number one thing that came out over the last 15 years is that there's a need for community. We have to create a network so that we can see what other people are doing, not just in the United States, but throughout the world, right, Latin America, but particularly those places in the United States that are experiencing the high demographic growth. And so the first model that came out, the first project that came out was the Journal of Latinos in Education, which is an academic journal, and that gave way to the National Latino Education Network. That gave way to the Handbook of Latinos in Education. Anyways, all these projects started coming about. But the number one thing that we saw was that we need to create ways by which to mentor the next generation. We need to create ways by which we can advocate on behalf of our community. So it's not enough just to do the research and get our doctorates and make our salary and live our lives in these institutions of higher education, that we have to create a model of advocacy where we see ourselves as community activists. So out of the experience of the Handbook of Latinos in Education, we said, okay, let's do a one-day summit where we could just talk about the handbook, and basically a book launch. Right? So that was 5 years ago when we said, hey, let's launch the Handbook of Latinos in Education. You, Armando, served on that advisory board, as you did really well, so you kind of know that a lot of it was great, but almost always the message was, it's not enough. We got to go out to the community. So the next step was, okay, let's create a summit, but not just another conference where we're sitting around talking to ourselves. Let's create a real summit. And what a summit means is that you got all these different kinds of people in the room. So you got teachers in the room together with administrators, together with the policy people, together with the local politicians and civic leaders, together with artists, together with the researchers and the writers, together with administrators at the higher education level, together with students, together with the nonprofits and the activists. So a summit really means you get all these people who normally would not be together in the same room, and you force everybody, you make everybody come into one room, and we have just one conversation. So what we do at the summit is that we create a thread of conversation that starts in the morning and goes all the way into the evening. And so there's no breakout sessions. People aren't going and coming back. It's just one conversation, one thread of conversation, I should say. And it all focuses around Latino education. And the idea here is we're in the middle of a crisis, right? There's and everybody knows the statistics, but there's some serious issues in our community. For example, as high as 70% of our community, of our kids, don't have access to quality pre-K, right? And then once they start school, there's that whole mismatch between the school culture and the home culture. Our children attend schools with fewer resources in terms of the available programs, the funds, the experience of the faculty. We have a high mobility rate. We're located in racially segregated communities. We got high poverty rates. We score among the lowest on achievement tests. We have high dropout rates, also known as push-out rates. Maybe a third, and in some places up to a half of our kids don't graduate from high school. And here's one thing that's really that really bothers me, that's kind of sad, is that the average Latino high schooler, the Latino kid who graduates from high school, on average, has the same skill level as an 8th grader, as a white counterpart 8th grader. And so that's pretty sad. A lot of our students who do graduate, maybe a quarter of them meet the requirements to go on to higher education. So, we have low graduation rates, low enrollment rates in higher education, and it's just we're caught up in a cycle for many, many, many generations, and we're finally getting to the point where there's actually things taking place now that we are the demographic, the majority minority, right? We're actually starting to make some headway. It's not enough, but we're making headway. So that's the context in which LEAD was born, right? And so we have a bunch of projects under this hammock, but the showcase, the headline event is the summit, so the LEAD Summit. The LEAD Summit this year is taking place on Wednesday, March 27th, and it always takes place at the headquarters, which is the campus of California State University, San Bernardino. But it's not enough to have 1,000 people in the room. That's great for 1,000 people. Sometimes we've had up to 1,200 people. That's great for the people who come in person, but it's not enough. We have this motto. It's called public or perish. If we don't go public, if the discourse is not public, then we are creating our own doom. We're closing ourselves off. So we make every effort possible to make this open and accessible to everybody and anybody. So what do? We set up cameras. We webcast it across the internet. We don't charge people. We ask people. It's sort of like a PBS model. If people want to sponsor the summit, by all means, we need the sponsorship. But if you don't have any money, if you're just a faculty, if you're a student, you can watch it absolutely for free on the internet. And then we've created other partnerships with local public radio and local public cable stations. So in all, we've had up to 7 million people between the attendees, the listeners, and the viewers who watch the summit. The interesting thing that makes it a little bit different is that we partner with other institutions. So we have up to 1,500 partner institutions. And what they do is they pledge to watch it. Sometimes they watch it in a small group. Sometimes they watch it in a big group. So even though there's 1,000 of us here at Cal State San Bernardino, but through the magic of the internet-based technologies, and, here's where you come in, Armando, through your vision, we make it accessible to thousands of people across those 1,500 institutions. Sometimes you have up to 500 people in a room watching it, and they have these watch parties, and they have their own little miniature conferences where they can talk about the issues and the policies that affect them at the local level. And in a sense, it's created this whole movement. So LEAD is a movement. We call it a movement, but the LEAD Summit is just the annual showcase event where we basically kind of show off, this is what we've done this year.
One of the things I also want to highlight to our listeners is that what makes this conference very different is that persons watching around the world are constantly invited to participate in the conference also. There are segments set aside in the presentations where they take questions from people around the world to participate. So it's not just we're funneling it out to the public. We're inviting the public to participate, the viewers to present their issues and present their perspective, and to let the world know through the LEAD organization of what they're doing, what is working and not working in their own backyard. So I applaud that effort that it's been built into the system when it is being broadcast, but it's also a two-way street.
Yeah, so we've had through the internet-based technology, people are watching the live stream or the webcast, but there's a little chat room function on the side. So we've been able to integrate social media, the Twitter, the hashtag stuff, the Facebook. It's all integrated into this chat room. We know through this technology that we've had up to 29 countries participate in some form or other, because the technology is able to capture where the countries in which people are viewing and plugging in. So we know at least 29 countries outside the United States. I take that back. 28 countries outside the United States. We're the 29th country that they participate. They're watching, but also they're having chat discussions on the side. And so the point here is that you're not just watching. You're not just being entertained, because anybody can do that. The hard part is how to get people to participate with you. So they're having discussions with all sorts of people around the whole world, but also they're having discussions at the local level with their own folks. And what this does is that it creates an energy like we're talking about the future of our country here. We're talking about the future of global citizenry here. So Latinos are the canary in the coal mine, right? So if we're not doing well, the future of the United States is not going to do well.
That's a very insightful word. We want to make sure that we also give our listeners a contact information where they can find out about the date. They can attend here if they're in the area of San Bernardino, or as well, they can also log on, listen to it, and it'll also be on demand. But we invite persons to view it on the live and participate in the discussions of all the different panels that take hold. So, Dr. Murillo, can we give out a contact information on where they can go to the website and get more information?
Yes, of course. Okay, so I would say the best place to go is to the website. So you want to go to leadsummit.csusb.edu. So it's LEAD, L-E-A-D, Summit, S-U-M-M-I-T, right? All one word, leadsummit.csusb.edu. And if you're having a hard time, you can Google LEAD, L-E-A-D, at Cal State San Bernardino, and it'll come up for you. And if you go to that LEAD website, all the information is there. For example, you can see what our program lineup is this year, right? Who are our speakers? So we have an array of speakers, high-level, prominent folks who come in, who talk. We also have special panel sessions. For example, this year, one of our special panel sessions is that we're going to bring in the founders, creators, and producers of Dora the Explorer, right? Dora la Exploradora. Okay, so why is Dora, something to talk about? Why? Well, we think it's important because she's a role model, right? We're on the Latino Role Model series. Maybe we should bring in and talk about Dora, because before Dora, there was very little, and I would say nothing, even at that level, that showed a darker skinned, a girl, spoke a different language, right? Somebody who's smart and intelligent, and the kids learned from. And unfortunately, because we have such a low access to quality pre-K programs, what do our kids do? They watch TV. So the impact of Dora directly impacts our educational lives. So that's an example. We if you go to that same webpage, if you have a company, a business, a project, we have an exhibit area for those who come in person, so you can become an exhibitor, right? If you are any organization who just wants to partner with us, contact us, and we'll talk about collaborating in some way or other. If you want to be a town hall viewing event, all the information is there on that same webpage. Ideas about how you can set up your own viewing site, either at your university, at your place of business, all that information. If you want to come in person, there's the travel information, there's the hotel information if you want to spend the night in San Bernardino. We would offer you optional course credit. If you want to come participate either in person or via webcast, right? You don't have to be here in person. And we will even offer you optional course credit, for college. So high school seniors, you can probably do that. Community college folks, university students, all can take advantage and get an extra unit. It's not going to hurt anybody, right? So all the information is there, and also the links so you can watch it via webcast. All the information you really need is there. There's even a video that tells you about what LEAD is, and so we're open. It's all about collaboration. It's all about cooperation. We want to do everything possible to make this another success for our fourth year, and we hope that you'll join us either in person or via webcast, or listen to it on public radio, or watch it on the public cable channels. But we want you to be aware. Our number one mission is to bring an awareness to the Latino educational crisis. But then, number two, we want to be part of the solution. So it just comes down to, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And we want everybody to be part of the solution.
Well, thank you, Dr. Murillo. And again, we need to give out contact information. One question does come up. If someone wants to participate in the summit before it happens, they have a question, they have a concern, they have something they want to share, can they send you that information now before the summit and possibly have it considered to be a point of discussion on the summit date? So we need to give out that contact information as well, or if it's there on the main webpage.
Yeah, all the information is there on the main webpage, the leadsummit.csusb.edu. My name is Enrique Murillo. My email address is emurilo@csusb.edu. Our office number is area code 909-537-7632. So there's different avenues you can get in touch with me, or you can just go straight to the website. And, we're looking also for sponsors. So if there's any businesses out there, anybody who wants to sponsor, here's a great opportunity to link your business with the betterment of and the health of the Latino community.
Absolutely. That's a wonderful option. Ladies and gentlemen, again, the website, I wrote it down. I think I wrote it down correctly, so check my spelling, please, Mr. Murillo. LEADSUMMIT, period, CSUSD, like in boy, period, EDU. Do I have that correct?
Yes, sir. That's it.
Okay.
You got it.
And ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Murillo offered his phone number and his email. He responds very quickly. Believe me, I've sent him emails in the middle of the night, and I get a response at 2 in the morning. I think this is a man who does not sleep. So take him on this offer, ladies and gentlemen. I think the idea of the businesses can also get exposure not only at the national, international level, and I know that a lot of the information that you provide also ends up in the middle of policymakers, both at the state and at the national level. So I applaud what you're doing in that aspect. So in closing in the show, we're going to give you time to sort of wrap it up for us and give us sort of the event of this wonderful conference. Again, Wednesday, March 27th on the campus of California State University, San Bernardino, and there is no fee, ladies and gentlemen, to attend, and it is very well attended. So give us your last closing words, Dr. Murillo.
Okay, so the LEAD Summit is an opportunity for all of us to get together via online, social media, the virtual classroom. Anyways, what we want to do is we want to forge the future. The best way to predict the future is to create it. We want to create the future. We want to be part of you. We want you to be part of us. And the LEAD Summit is actually an action planning forum. It's where we take our future by the reins and say, okay, it's up to us. It's our ideas. It's the steps we're going to take. So it's not, you don't just sit back and listen. It's participatory. That you have to be involved in the change. And it's time to step up. It's time to raise your hand and step in and do the necessary work that needs to take place in our communities. So if it comes down to that, that's what it is. So it's not just to watch. It's not just for your entertainment. It's an action. It's about action, and we are about action.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from the director and the person who actually brain thrust this whole idea and has a major group of people that are supporting this wonderful effort, not only here in the local area of San Bernardino, but also globally. We applaud your efforts, Dr. Murillo, and we've been talking to Dr. Enrique Murillo about the LEAD Conference, LEAD Summit that is coming up on Wednesday, March 27th. And it happens every year, so it's an annual. This will be their fourth year. And again, for more information, contact LEAD Summit, one word, LEADSUMMIT, period, CSUSD, like a boy, period, EDU. Dr. Murillo, I want to thank you very much for your time and focus on the idea of helping us with this crisis, because what you're doing and your group and your organization and your committees are helping to bring hope to us that, yes, we're aware of this problem, but there's also, we're championing solutions, offering hope, and we're inviting everyone around the world to participate in the discussion and to provide models and areas that can be improved upon and connect people so that people know how to access each other, their resources, their minds, their ideas, and be able to make a better future. Thank you, Dr. Murillo, for helping us with the global economy of Latinos.
Ándale, pues. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, same here. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to Latino Role Models and Success. We definitely have interviewed someone today that meets all the criteria, Dr. Murillo, and he is also an area of not so much his success, but he uses his position to make sure that we think of the success of all youth, not only in the United States, but also around the world. I'm Armando F. Sanchez, executive producer and host of this program. You can contact me at Facebook or LinkedIn. It's under Armando F. Sanchez. and you can email me at lsacnational@hotmail.com. Thank you for being on the program today, and we look forward to having you on our next program of Latino Role Models and Success. Thank you, and good evening.